Good evening. It is 6 o'clock. It's time to begin the McAllister Board of Education meeting for Monday, March 11th, 2024. Ms. Few, will you take the roll? And next we will have flag salute and invocation from Parker Intermediate Center. We have one of our fifth graders, Jersey Skimbo, will be leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you please stand at this time.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our invocation will be by our sixth grader, Carson Sutterfield. Please bow your heads.
Thank you, Lord, for blessing us with this day. Thank you for all of our teachers, principals, and board members here tonight. Be with the board members as they make decisions for our school. Please watch over us and keep us safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Well, my name is Jamie Price, and I'm going to turn this way so nobody's looking at my back on the camera, for all those tuning in tonight. Thank you for coming to our school. I know we have several visitors tonight, and I have lots of visitors packing the back of the room. So I'd like to introduce our Parker staff. So when I call your name, I'll let you stand where you're at, unless you want to take a long walk up front. I figured that. Yeah, Ms. Klebeck, you're first. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to introduce my partner in crime, Ms. Tiffany Sutterfield. This is her first year as assistant principal. She's done a great job. So I appreciate her and all that she's doing. So I will announce them now, and I'm going to go fast because I got a lot. Ray Brewster, she does our 5th and 6th grade multi-classroom, very full multi-classroom. Tyler Brown is one of our special education paras. Tamara Klebeck does 5th grade co-teaching math. Kaybree Dunkerson is our STEM teacher. And Rich is our 6th grade science teacher, one of. Denise Emerson, our librarian. Amy Ferguson does 6th grade reading co-teaching. Jill Harris is our 5th and 6th grade social studies teacher. Yolanda Helm does 6th grade co-teaching reading with Miss Ferguson. Melissa Hoover is our counselor who never knows what she's going to get every day. Jennifer Howell is our office assistant. Miss Inman, Lynette Inman does 5th and 6th grade social studies. Holly Kennan does 6th grade reading. Lacey Lesnow is our 5th grade math co-teaching buddy with Miss Klebeck. Erica Maddox is our 6th grade co-teaching math teacher. Brianne Matthews does 6th grade math and advanced math. Philip Neal is our PE coach, resident PE coach. December O'Hanlon does 5th grade science. Amy Owens, 5th grade math. Montana Patzak does 6th grade science. Ashley Rampey is our 6th grade teen teacher. Rebecca Sherman is our 6th grade co-teaching math with Miss Maddox. Dion Sharp is one of our paraprofessionals. Billy Sistrom is one of our paras also, but she also knocks on doors when people don't come to school all the time. She's really good at that. Johnny Skimbo does 6th grade social studies and helps out in PE. Amy Smee does 5th grade reading, co-teaching. Tiffany, I already announced her. Brianna Swaboni Newton is a 5th grade science teacher. She got married this year. Kay Teal is our 5th grade reading. She does co-teaching with Miss Smead. Rhonda Thompson does computers for us and also ATS. She's one of our paraprofessionals. Billy Todd is our secretary. Jennifer Witten is our 5th grade teen teacher. Brooklyn Williams is our art teacher. And also there is artwork displayed from Miss Williams and Miss Dunkerson's classes for y'all of our students. Claire Yacht is our 5th grade special ed 5th and 6th special ed teacher. She does one of our behavior programs. So, and Andrew Hatch, of course, was here. All the band directors come over to our school. So Mr. Hatch was here also. So, I know I didn't leave anybody off because I took a roll tonight. So, thank you very much for all of you coming tonight. Let's give them a big round of applause for what they do for our school. Also, last year we were a GE model school. I know some of you were able to come to our program. We were also notified that we have made GE model status again this year. So we're very excited about that, and that is all because of the work that they do with their students. So I appreciate them very much. Okay, well, I will turn it back over to Ms. Truby.
Thank you, Ms. Price, and thank you, everyone, for all that you do every day. Mr. Singleton, do you have some guests for us?
Come on up, kiddos. So these are our state qualifiers for the state wrestling tournament. I'm not going to go into specifics. I'm going to let Coach Billy take care of that.
All right, I'm Coach Billy. I'm the head wrestling coach for McAllister. We had a good year this year. We came out, we started a 5th and 6th grade program, had over 40 kids in that. Our 7th and 8th grade program had a bump in numbers. We have an astounding 22 junior high girls in wrestling this year. It's growing. It's growing. It's going to keep on growing. You got a kid that's a little aggressive, maybe push them to wrestling. We work magic, okay? High school, okay, a couple years ago, I'm really proud of this group simply because the year I took over, the year before that, they were 1-9 in duels. Then my first year, we were 2-7. Cam and Kenneth were freshmen. We had about, I think, 25 kids, and then we finished the year with 12 because a lot of them jumped ship because it's a tough sport. The year after that, we were 4-6, and then this year we jumped to 8-2, and we've been district runners-up 3 years in a row. It's been a long time since that's happened. Also, the last time we had more than 2 state qualifiers was 2001, when we had 8. We had an astounding 6 state qualifiers this year, and the best part about it is they're all coming back next year. So we really didn't lose anything. We were doing some statistics the other day, just kind of knowing what we did. We scored a little over 1,071 points this year, and over 98% of them are coming back next year. So make sure to come out to a duel this next year because we're coming back, we're coming harder. Some people are going to hear about McAllister Wrestling next year. I promise you guys that. Just introducing some people. We got sophomore Shiesty Leemore. We got Cam Scarface Hutchison. We got Kenny Big Rig Carter. We got Kale Slim Shady Livingston. And then we got the animal, our first ever state qualifier for girls, Emery Turner. And I also made Emery Turner write a speech to give, but I'm actually not going to make her give it. Well, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, everyone. Right now is a good time if you want to leave, would be a good time. We're about to start our, KTC, I didn't. Yeah, we're going to do the auditor really quick because we have him on the phone. So, but this would be a good time. We have an audit report. So he's on the phone with us, and I think we'll put the mic so that he can talk to everybody in the room. So.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this audit report to you guys. This is for your fiscal year 2022-23 audit. And if you have a booklet there, maybe you could, I could walk through part of it with you. I'm not going to go through every page like I do most years. I'm going to skip around through here. So if y'all want me to go into any more detail later, I'd be happy to. But if you would turn over to page 1. Page 1 is where we have the independent auditor's report, and it addresses that's where we speak to the reasonableness of the financial statements, and we found them to be fairly stated. It does mention in there, that second paragraph, that's a qualified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. That's because of the lack of fixed asset records to go in the financial statements. We don't have a school that's on the regulatory basis of accounting that keeps those records, but Everything else looked all right. That's a qualified opinion just based on the lack of the records, fixed asset records or capital asset records. The third paragraph there talks about an adverse opinion on U.S. Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. That's because you guys don't go by U.S. Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. You use the regulatory basis that's prescribed by the Oklahoma State Department of Education. And so that the adverse opinion on those principles really is not relative to y'all. There on the second page, it talks there about responsibilities of management for financial statements. Basically, just that y'all are responsible for the fair presentation of those financial statements and the internal controls. And then you've got another section there that talks about the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements. And it just goes, it gives you a little bit of, in summary there, a little bit of summary detail a summary of what kind of things we do when we come down and do the audit. The third page there talks about supplementary information at the top. In the back of this report, we have schedules such as the Federal Financial Assistance Schedule and your activity fund schedules, and those are all considered to be supplementary information. And that just simply says that we subjected that information to the same audit procedures as we did the basic financial statements, and we found them to be fairly stated as well. And then it talks about two other reports in here in the back that we'll go over in just a second. Then if I could get you to look on over to page 5. Page 5 is a combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And that'll give you there your general fund, your special revenue. Y'all have several special revenue funds. Your special revenue funds are your building fund, your child nutrition fund, your co-op fund, and your municipal levy fund. But anyway, it gives you how much revenue was collected for the year, how much was spent by OCAS function code, and you can see whether you spent more or less than you took in each one of those fund types. And if you look at the general fund, you can see we were down about $116,000, or we spent about $116,539 more than we took in last year. But that took us from a $3,056,000 fund balance down to $2,940,000. Still I consider that a very healthy fund balance for your general fund. Your special revenue fund, it basically all of them together netted out a $15,000 gain from their fund balances last year. We'll look at those individually in just a minute. You've got your debt service fund there. That's basically set up to levy money to retire your bonds, and it pretty much takes care of itself. That fund balance is not really relative because you can't spend it. It's just, you spend it on your bonds and interest. And then, of course, your capital projects are your bond funds, and it shows there that you had $2,372,000 left in those funds at the end of June 2023. After that, there's a notes to the financial statements there, and those notes to the financial statements, they give you a lot of definitions, and they give you a lot of other information and some additional information as to what's in the financial statements here, and it goes into a little bit more detail in some areas, like for instance your debt. It shows up there on page 15. Page 14 and 15, it gives you some detailed information there about your debt that talks all about the teacher retirement system. But what I'd like for you to do, if you would for me, if you go on back to page 19. Page 19, this is all your special revenue funds, and they're set out by fund, as you all know it, rather than just special revenue. It shows you your building fund, your co-op, your child nutrition, and your municipal levy, and how each one of those did separately. I'm sure that y'all are probably aware of how they all did separately, but you can see that the building fund spent $415,000 more than it took in. The co-op fund had $90,000 collected more than they spent, and the child nutrition spent $202,000 more than they took in, and the municipal tax had $582,000 more than they spent. And that's what netted out to that $15,030 that we looked at over there on the first schedule we looked at. But I wanted to show you these so you can see each one of them separately. And they all still look like they're real healthy fund balances as well. Your bond funds show up on page 20. I'm sure y'all are aware about your bond funds, but it'll show you a revenue, expenditure, and change balance, and that on page 20, on those on page 21. But if I could get you to look over to page 28. Page 28 is schedule of federal awards expended. And I bring this to your attention because the federal government has a big, they spend a lot of money in schools and they want them audited. And so on the left-hand side of that page 28, and actually 28 and 29, are every one of the federal programs that McAllister School District participated in during the 22-23 fiscal year. And it'll show you the name of the program. There's some federal CFDA data. It'll show you total receipts that you received on each one of those, the total expenditures. And if you look over on page 29, you can see at the bottom, y'all spent $10,467,000 worth of federal government's money last year. Well, what we have to do is assemble all these programs, and we have to pick what we consider to be major federal programs, and they have to comprise at least 40% of your total $10,467,000. And those programs that we selected have an asterisk out at the left, very far left side of them. For this year, it was Title I school support, and the ESSER and the COVID money, and the ARP school counselor grant. And what we do is we go in and we do compliance procedures that the federal government sets out for us in a compliance manual on every one of those major federal programs. And we talk about it here. We'll talk about it in a letter here that we get to in just a second. Your activity funds all show up on page 31 through page 33. We've got a year's worth of activity that went through there. We opt those real strongly because there's so many things that can happen to them. On page 35 is another report that we have, and it's on internal control and compliance. Now, we don't do an actual audit on internal controls, but we can't do an audit, a financial statement audit, without looking at internal controls, and we look at most of them down there. And when I say internal controls, I'm talking about following the transactions through the process, looking at the approval processes, looking at the safeguard of the assets, looking at the segregation of duties, and that kind of stuff. And what we are to do is, if we find any significant deficiencies in the internal controls, we bring it to your attention in this letter on page 35 and 36, and it'll basically tell you that we did not find any problems in the internal controls that we consider to be reportable or material weaknesses in McAllister's internal controls. Now, it does down at the bottom of page 35, the last sentence refers to some immaterial instances that we reported to management on page 42 and 43 of this report. Now, these aren't reportable instances of non-compliance, but they're issues that we want to address with the board. Before that, if you would look at page 37. Page 37 is our audit report on the major federal programs. This is where we went to the compliance manual, ran those compliance procedures on all the major federal programs that were picked to be major, and found out whether y'all complied with the requirements and the assurances that you made when you agreed for the applied for the federal program. And this letter on page 37 and 38 will tell you that we ran all those tests, and we found that McAllister School to be in material compliance with all the major compliance items that were applicable to the federal programs that we tested down there, the major federal programs. And that's good. Then if you would, if you turn on over to page 42. 42 is reserved. This is what I was talking about, the non-material instances of non-compliance or other areas that we felt like needed your attention, we needed to address with you, which may not be material weaknesses in internal control, but they certainly are things that could lead up to that very easily if they're not addressed. And there's several of those this year. That number one has to do with invoices in the activity fund expenditures. Now, they do a good job in the general and building and the appropriated fund expenditures, but the activity fund expenditures need to also have a signature of the person that actually receives delivery of the merchandise or knows about the services that they're paying for. Those need to be, either their signature appears on the bottom of the invoice or a delivery ticket if it's available. And you can sure do a lot better there. The second condition has to do with the situation there with the activity fund. We tested several receipts down there in the activity fund, and we found some discrepancies in the accounts number 978, 80, 806, and 913, and we actually could not determine that. Well, we determined that that money did not get to the bank. In fact, there was missing money on $3,359.94. We've gone over that with the superintendent and your staff there, and I think they've addressed some of that problem, but that certainly is a problem that you would like not to reoccur. There was instances where the sponsors weren't issuing receipts for all the monies collected. There's also instances where those collections weren't deposited or deposited on a timely basis. And we have we have several paragraphs of recommendation there that I think somebody should go over with the activity fund sponsors and confirm with them that all these procedures are being followed. Number 3 there has to do with the fundraising activities out there. Here again, it's to do with the activity fund, but what we're talking about is when they have, I can't get specific with your school, but we're looking at candy fundraisers or Blue and Gold sausage or things of that nature where the sponsors have a fundraiser for their activity. When they do that, there's certain controls and certain procedures that they need to go through. And I believe y'all have those procedures set out for them, but it appeared to us that there was a failure to follow those procedures that require teachers and sponsors to prepare accountability reports for these fundraising activities, that they need to keep up with how much they purchase, how much they sell, and how much they make, and how much inventory they have. That was the third condition. The fourth one had to do with the activity fund receipts. We found several activity fund receipts that were marked void, but the void was marked on the copy of the receipt. If you mark a receipt void, you have to put the receipt back in the receipt book and attach it so that we will know that it actually was a voided receipt and that receipt wasn't made out to somebody and then they just voided the copy. Then number 5 had to do with your federal funding from the Education Stabilization Act. That's to pay for your HVAC systems and some building upgrades. This is a deal where the state kind of came out late in the game and told you that you had to comply with the federal Davis-Bacon Act. A lot of schools had problems with this because they didn't know it ahead of time, but anytime you pay more than $200 to any subcontractors that's performing construction or repair, you have to ensure that they are paying their employees a prevailing wage. And that information is secured by the Secretary of State's office, and you have to see documentation that or some type of assurance that they did that. And so we recommended that those federal compliance, that federal compliance requirement be followed as well. And that was all we had. That was those 5 conditions. I think that they're very important. I think your staff, I think Dr. Seaver and the whole staff, we talked to them, and I believe they think they're very important too. And I'm certain that they've probably already addressed those. So, but it's something that we need to bring to your attention there. And that pretty much wraps it up. Unless you want me to go back through and go through each page, I would be happy to. Or I will answer any question you might have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Is this the only report?
Only report. We put everything in our audit reports. It's available to everybody. Now, what we do is usually before we leave or when we're down doing the audit, before we leave the last day, we'll gather up the superintendent and whoever else he wants in there, and we'll go over things with him, which includes some of these items that I've gone over here. It might even include more than that. There could be some things that are just mainly suggestions that we would like that we make to him and his staff during that time. And but no, there is no other written report that goes anywhere. That you've heard everything that anybody else has heard.
Any other questions? Okay, I think
Well,
we're good.
I would like to thank the staff down there for helping us out, the assistance they gave us and the cooperation during the audit. You've got a quality staff, you've got some quality leadership. Y'all are really headed in the right direction down there, and I'd like to compliment you on that. You know, one thing I think that helps is your staff, they'll call us during the year if they have a problem, and we try to work it out up front, and then we don't have to come in on the tail end of the audit and write you up. And I think a good relationship like that served you well as well. Well, thank you, and thank you for letting me work for you again.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, and moving on, I didn't see Raymond Wilson here, but I do see that we have someone here from KTC. Go ahead.
Do I stand at the podium? Is that what you prefer?
Unless you want to walk around.
No, that's perfect. So my name's Brad Kellogg. I'm the Assistant Director at Comiskey Tech, and you've probably heard from Raymond for the past year or two or three, and we've decided to kind of start alternating boards that we present to. We're going to say the same content, but the way I talk, the way he talks, will be a little different. So you may get a different perspective from me than you'll get next year from him. So again, we're here for our Partner School Service Report. Comiskey Tech, we feel we are accountable to the community and the money we bring in, how it gets spent in those communities. You have a handout in front of you, and I'm going to walk you through it. I'm open to answering any questions you may run across at any point. Feel free to interrupt me. So just starting on that front page, you'll see that Comiskey Tech and McAllister served 450 students this year, and this is numbers as of October 1st. And if you look at the little graphics, you'll see that the programs are listed. As in the first top left there, you'll see Auto Service Tech. Each little black stick figure there represents a student in that program. Each green figure represents an adult. And so the little stick figures are high school students. The green ones are adults. Some information at the bottom that we work pretty hard to gather at the end of every year, at the beginning of the next school year. We're going to reach back out to every student that completed one of our programs. If we can find them, we're going to ask them questions such as, did you go to work? What kind of salary are you making? Is this a job that's relevant to the training you got? And so the feedback from some of that is, of the students that start with us, 90% of them are going to either complete with us or continue on in the program. And if you're familiar with dropout rates, 90% retention and completion is a good number. 96% of our students receive positive placement. That means they either join the military, they get a job that's relevant to the field we train them in, or they continue their education, whether it be through an advanced nursing degree or whatever the next step in their education might be. Of those 450 students we had enrolled, 1,007 certificates were earned. That means that, in essence, somewhere between 2 to 3 certificates per student were earned. Those give them a leg up in the workforce, something that the average applicant might not have had. And they earned an average wage of $18, and that's every student that we could find from the previous year. The next page on the back, you'll see that is McAllister High School specific information. And so if you look in each category, a blue figure represents a McAllister student in the total of the class. If you look at the green stick figures, those are going to represent students that are adults that came from the McAllister School District. So not only are we serving McAllister High School, the high school students, the blue figures, but the green ones attended McAllister in the past. If you look at, say, the health careers education box there, you'll see that that's a large number of students. It's served by 3 instructors. And so there's 3 courses that serve health careers. If you look at the biomed category, you'll see that's a rather large box. It's served by 2 instructors. The rest of them are served by 1. If you just glancing over it, you'll see you'll have a large population in health careers. Those would be CNA or CMA classes. You see quite a few at the Biomed Academy, quite a few in welding. 40 students from McAllister High School in that gray line at the bottom attended a math or science course while they were there. So we offer Algebra 2, calculus, environmental science. They may have taken any one of those. If we flip over to the final page, we have all the things we've talked about up until this point have been full-time programs, things that are offered during the day. That top section talks about workforce and economic development. Those are going to be short-term classes that are offered perhaps in the evening or on weekends, or offered to firefighters perhaps, or courses where we go to a business and offer CPR training or forklift training, those things. Safety trainings for some of the companies helps bring insurance rates down. Something that's offered specifically to the high school, or not to the high school, but your public school, our team puts together professional development that's offered to all of your staff, and those are videos that they watch that fulfill some of those requirements the state's put on us. We have a large number of hours we have to take, so they can utilize those videos, or they can supplement them as they see fit. Another service we provide is monthly. We host superintendent meetings where Dr. Stever comes. They're able to visit together and discuss the things that are relevant at the time. And then also once a month we have principal and counselor meetings, and they come and again we do the same things, talk about what's relevant. The last thing you'll see at the bottom of that page is every one of our programs has a business and education council or an advisory council that they gather. We want our programs to be relevant in this area. And so if you look at those lists of businesses, lists of names, I'm sure you'll recognize 99% of them. We appreciate McAllister Schools, because if you look, I think I found that there was McAllister school employees represented in 3 or 4 of those advisory councils. And so they're giving us feedback to the CIT program, the counseling career development, and the teacher prep programs. And so we appreciate your people serving on those for us. That is both of what I had prepared. Are there any questions? I appreciate y'all's time.
Okay, moving on to 3 board reports. The only thing that I have is there is a meeting coming up. It's April. Lori sent us an email, so make sure you check your email. I know I think it's just for ethics credits. So if your hours are low, it gives you, they will feed you dinner and get some ethics points out of it as well. Moving on to 4.1, Executive Director of Athletics report, Mr. Singleton.
Thank you. Let's see. Kind of a transition time right now. Of course, March 1st, so spring sports have started, but just to finish up the winter season, our boys basketball team, they finished their season up in the regional rounds of the OSSA playoffs. Our girls were regional consolation champions, and they finished their season up in the area rounds of basketball tournaments. As far as now, powerlifting, they were regional champions last weekend, and they'll be traveling to El Reno for the state powerlifting championship. We had 12 qualifiers. Something that was pretty unique about that, we have 4 football players, a full-time trackster, and 2 golfers that will be representing us in state powerlifting. So we're really, really excited about that. Also, Brandon Rivera actually signed a letter of intent to powerlift at Friends University, so we're really excited about him. And we'll have all of our signees at the May board meeting. We'll have all those guys come and recognize them at that time. And then, like I said, right now, spring sports are cranking up, baseball, track, nonstop. So, any questions? Okay.
Hello. So I'll go over the financial report really quickly. I'm going to try not to take up the time that Carrie John actually made up this time. So as you can see, our total revenue so far for the year in our general fund is a little over 24 million. Our salaries up to date are a little over 14 million. And if you compare it to what we had last year, we're up about 500,000 in our salaries. But then if you look at our regular expenditures for the year, we're at 2.9 million. And last year this time, we were at 4.2 million. So we've really tried to cut in our expenditures that are not salary related, because we knew we were gonna have so much more in our salaries this year. It looks like our fund balance is really, really great right now, and it is. But again, part of that is just because of what time of the year it is for our revenue to have come in, and not all of our expenditures have gone out. Our co-op, we had quite a bit of carryover in that last year just because of some coding issues, just that we weren't aware of, and we've corrected those for this year. So those are, because really whatever we take in should go out in the co-op fund. Building fund, we still have a fairly healthy fund balance. We have a lot of small projects in the work and some not so small. So that will be kind of taking a hit in the next few months, just so we can get some repairs on some buildings and things in our facilities. Child nutrition, I'm gonna point out to you guys that they worked really hard. Their salaries are actually down this year, and he's fully staffed, and you haven't lost anybody this year, have you? Just 2? And last year we were hemorrhaging people out of child nutrition. So that's a really good thing. But if you can see the expenditures and the regular expenditures, those have raised considerably, and you guys know that's just because of food costs. Food costs are so much more this year. Gary and I just had that conversation the other day. And then right now in our appropriations, we have a little over 3 million left in our appropriations for this year. So we're right on target for what we should be looking at to have a healthy fund balance. I don't know what I did. I don't know if y'all's looks like mine, but I guess I formatted this copy wrong. And so we have in our general fund, year to date, we have about 21 million in new revenue, which is really, really good. And we haven't collected a lot in our federal programs recently, because I don't know if you know, we keep saying that federal programs is kind of a challenge, and we're working really hard to do everything they want us to and jump through all the hoops that they're having to jump through, and then they make us jump through. So we're working really hard on some claims with that. If you go to the back, where it's the treasurer's statement, if I can get there too. Here we go. I got lots of papers going on over here. So our total receipts for the month were $3,594,530.01. Our bank balance, less the outstanding warrants, so the things that we haven't paid yet, is $13,686,464.53. Again, this is right on track with what we had last year. We're still earning some really good interest. I'm going to be working on that interest rate a little bit with the bank. I had to cancel my appointment with the bank that I had because of my father's illness and then passing. So we're working on seeing if we can get that up a little more, because it's a great way for us to earn money easily. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Still me. Thing number 2, so I don't know if y'all kind of heard, so the the way that you should do your budget for the year is that you send your estimate of needs into the county approves it, they send it back. Well, we never got ours back. And then you present your budget. Well, we never got ours back. Lori called, I called. We never got the right answer. And then finally, I asked her the other day, because, I'd been out so much. I said, did I just miss that not coming back? And she's like, nope, it's still not here. So she called, and they're like, oh, we would have called you if we didn't approve it. And we were like, why didn't we get a copy? And she said, you're supposed to send 3 copies, not 2. So we sent the wrong amount of copies to them, so they didn't send us one back. So here it is February, and I'm going over the budget with you. So we apologize in advance. I'm going to go over general fund revenue with you. So this is what we are projected to bring in this year. So we've already gotten all our federal allocations. I do a percentage of what I think we're going to see within the year of those. Our local sources as well. I also do a projected amount on all our ad valorem, our revenue from renting school facilities, any kind of insurance losses. I just kind of put all that in a sheet, and if you look on, it's the 4th page, and it says McAllister General Revenue Fund. So this was what we projected. I only put where we collect part of our state revenue. I will say I updated this to be accurate as of now, since it's so late in the year, and we've already had our mid-year adjustment. And so if you look in the 3,000s, and you get down to where it says state revenue, our original allocation was a little over 13 million. And again, we got a really nice mid-year adjustment. So we ended up with over 15 million in foundation salary. So we've really had a unique year. Our foundation salary went up because we had more kids. Our weights were better this year, so that's part of why we got a good bump. And then because of the teachers' raises, they factored that into our foundation salary as well. So that's why we got a good bump. But the thing that was unique that went up as well as our chargeables. So not just our state aid went up, but our ad valorem is also going up this year. So if you get all the way back, that's just all the things that we take in money. We should have a new revenue a little over 32 million by the end of the year. And so that's where we were working at to build the budget. And if you go back, go back to the page that says general fund revenue. Right now, we're estimating that our carryover is going to be 3.4 million. So that's what we're pushing towards. As you just heard Carrie John say last year, we spent more money than we brought in. And this year, we're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to save more money than we put out, simply because something that you're going to look at later, our appropriations are going to go down next year. And so if we don't get ahead of them this year, next year we would end up being in a world of hurt. So although it's been a little painful this year and I've cut some things back to the bone, it's all for a good purpose, so we can employ all the people that we need to employ to take care of all the kids we need to take care of. Does anybody have any questions on general fund? Building fund, building fund revenue, this is kind of where we think we're going to get most of our money this year. I just want to point out that our total receipts from what we got last year in 22-23 to what we're getting in 23-24. It's about $6 million less. I mean, $600,000 less. Sorry. But part of that is that we didn't get some of the contributions this year that we've gotten last year. We got our last payment from the Peterborough Foundation for the addition on the buildings. James got a donation for over $200,000 from First National for the scoreboard at the football field. So all of that went into building fund to be able to take care of those things, and that's really where most of our differences come in, is just purely from contributions. But we're hoping to keep our carryover right about $2 million. Right now I have it projected at being 1.95 and a little more million. So, does anybody have any questions? And then co-op, it consists of our ELL program, which we co-op with Frederick this year, which seems like a weird place to co-op with, but that's just how they do it there. And so Frederick is actually the school that's in charge of our grant this year. So basically, we spend the money, we send them an invoice, they send us back money. The other thing that goes into co-op is alternative ed. And we tried, alternative ed is a pretty large program, and it's a pretty expensive program. And we received this year, $85,000 is our allocation. That's exactly where our allocation is from the state. And again, last year we didn't have some things coded in it, so we had a lot of carryover. So we're trying to move more things into it this year to take care of that, more salaries and such. But basically that's the only two things in the co-op, which is Fund 12. Any questions on that? I've already gone over some of child nutrition. So we're estimating to get about $3.5 million from state and federal funds for revenue from child nutrition. Last year, being a rookie at some of the treasurer duties, I did not put some money in their fund that I should have done. So this year I'm making up for that. So we started with this year, and I've gotten them caught up for this year, and now in the next few months I'll be catching them up from last year. And so I've reflected some of that in here. Again, if you look at their expenditures on the last page, you can see that a lot of their expenditures have gone up, especially in food, and that's just estimated. But I don't know what else to do about that, other than you just have to pay it, and you hope you get as much of it back as you can. And then we're hoping, if you look on the page where it says revenue, that the fund balance to be about $556,000, which is considerably less than what it has been in the past. But again, between food costs and moving the facility and a few other things, they've spent a lot out of their fund balance in this last year. And that's what Carrie John just said in the audit report as well. Does anybody have any questions? It's nuts. It's crazy. All right, thank you.
Okay, I just would like to ask Ms. Price and Ms. Miller to come up here real quick and give me just a short little snippet of the conference they went to, because we're able to send them to these conferences, and I just want you guys to know what they're getting when they go. So just one little thing that really stood out to you.
Well, we, Jamie and I, as well as Mr. Turner and Mr. Newberry, went to the OMLEAOASSP conference. In other words, middle school and high school Oklahoma conference in Edmond, February 13th and 14th. And they had a wonderful keynote speaker. I can't remember what his name was for the life of me. Ryan Murado, yes. He is a Division I basketball referee, and so he just kind of talked, and a former high school principal. So we talked about his experiences and everything going through that, and then they had wonderful breakout sessions talking about the trends and the changes that are going on in education today. Got to visit with some schools, smaller districts, all the way from Warner up to Broken Arrow. So just the networking and great breakout sessions, like I said, over the trends in technology and school safety that is at the forefront of education today.
I told Miller at most of the conferences I've been to are elementary conferences. I said, so the mood is definitely a little bit more somber with middle school and high school, if you could imagine. So that was a big difference for me. But yes, I would say there's a lot of similarities between being a referee and a principal. And so he made a lot of those connections and just how you approach things. And it was funny, but it was also very applicable to what we see and deal with every day. So it was nice to be able to visit with others too about what their schools are going through and different programs that they're using and things that we could bring back to our own schools as well. So we appreciated being able to go.
And like they said, Mr. Turner and Mr. Newberry both went also, but they might come next time and give you a little bit about what they enjoyed about it. But
Okay, now we'll move on to 4.5, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Stever?
So it occurred to us as a cabinet, and maybe we didn't say it out loud, but I think Lori wants to say it out loud every time we have a cabinet meeting, that policy needs some attention. And that when you look at a policy and you see that it's been, the last time it was reviewed or changed would be, I think we discussed 2013, that it might be time. And so we are working to contract with OSSBA to basically do top to bottom, front to back overhaul to get it. Because we seem to always have 3 or 4 that we're constantly trying to get updated and in line with the state. So that's a piece that we are going to begin this, I would assume, this summer, and start moving forward to get that more, get it up to date.
Thank you. I know I had been looking at policy as well and told them 2013, and I think some of the other board members had as well, and so I know it's on the forefront of our mind to make sure that that it's up to date and especially in compliance and around where other 5A schools are. So we are looking forward to doing that. So moving on to 5, which is statement of consent agenda. 5.1, the following matters may be approved in their entirety by the board upon motion made, seconded, and passed by majority vote of the board members. However, upon request by any board member, any one or more of said matters will be removed from the consent agenda and acted upon separately. We all get this ahead of time. I would like 6.3. Taken off. Does anyone else have any? And Laura, you know you have to always remind me how to handle this. Okay. All right, does anyone else want any taken off? If not, I will make the motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 6.3. Do I have a second? Second from Ms. Colbert. Ms. Few? Yes. Okay, and 6.3 says consideration and possible board action to increase purchase order number 764 to $15,328.41 and change the vendor to Lindley's Paint and Body. The original purchase order was $4 to Owasso High School, The original purchase order was never used and closed. So I'd like a little clarification on what this is, please. Okay. Okay. It's just an awful big difference, and one's to Owasso High School and one's to Lumley's Paint and Body, so. Okay. Can you tell me whose purchase order? Was this a central office purchase order?
I don't know what the Owasso one
Uh-huh.
but the purchase order limits was for the ag truck.
Okay.
And
Uh-huh.
received our insurance payment, but we paid it directly. Insurance paid us directly. She had just gotten out of this order, so she knows to put this one back in. And both of those will be.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a copy of that in here? Is it in here? What page is that on? Oh, okay, the original was, okay. Okay, that makes more sense. It was very confusing to me. Does anybody have any questions on that? Yeah. Okay. And now we can approve it? Okay, I will accept a motion to approve 6.3, the consideration of possible action to increase the purchase order number 764 to $15,328.41 and change the vendor to Lindley's Paint and Body. The original purchase order was for $4 to Owasso High School. It was, that purchase order was never used and closed, so it was on the order of it, and it was closed. So do I have a motion to approve that? We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? A second from Mr. Salzman. Mrs. Few? Yes. Okay. And then 8 is business. 8.1, consideration of possible action on going into executive session to discuss the employment and resignation of personnel as identified on the attached Exhibit A for the 2023-2024 school year, all in accordance with the provisions of 25 OS Section 307B1. I will make the motion to convene into executive session. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Fields. Ms. Few? Yes. It's 6:58 and we are now in executive.